I know there's always concerns, but
So many concerns. I got questions for Doc. First and foremost, oh boy, man. Whew. So you presented me with a lot of interesting options here, and I feel like this is kind of like stress testing a lot of the flexibility here, because I know I could have gone off the rails and done all kinds of stuff in any of the different time periods I've been in. I didn't really explore the 1980s at all. I toyed with the 1950s a little bit, but was trying to play it realistic. So here we are in 2016, and I am cut loose because, granted, I'm still trying to be realistic to Kate dealing with the fact that, like, her life is upended, but at the same time, it's all moving so fast. What the fuck you gonna do? And you present me with a lot of interesting options, like just solving the problem of Marty's kids. Very appealing option.
I genuinely didn't know what you were going to decide to do. I just wanted to give you options.
Yeah, but boy, you get Kate in a position where she's able to talk to Doc Brown about like basically argue him out of his like weird time travel hubris, and then things change. So now, boy, there's layers, because I'm curious, and then also like Chiron seems like he's got his own plot thread, like waiting to get picked up again, maybe someday, or not.
It depends. This is all depending on what you do.
I know. It's daunting because sometimes Doc Brown's like, "Hey there, 17-year-old child who's displaced from time. What would you like to do?" And I'm like, I would,
you're the one who's saying that you don't belong here.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not like Doc is like, and Doc's just like, hey, let's just wheel and deal in through time. It's more of like, hey, I'm going to deliver you home, and I'm going to explore the future. And you're like, Doc, this is not my home. This is not my beautiful house.
Where can I go? What can I do? But
so that's a problem that Doc is like, he's I think he's struggling with, like that. If the timeline is otherwise secure, but yet you don't belong, and there's possibly another you, and if he leaves you there long enough, you might disappear. That's not cool. So what's the solution? And that's something he was already puzzling over. And then Marty has a terrible future that he now wants to fix, and now this happens. So there's a lot of shit.
Yeah, it's daunting. It's really daunting. And like this in this particular situation, it's interesting because this puts me in what feels more like a conventional tabletop role-playing scenario, except that my character has a total inability to do anything to save herself from this. I can only just talk and hope that my words can help me get out of it at a level that is, perhaps even... I can't assume that it's impossible because of the nature of this game, but, it's... If I got picked up by scavengers and had, like, a bunch of, like, technology, I wouldn't hold it against them to kill me. That just, that kind of makes sense. But good thing they can't explain it. Good thing I can confuse Jimmy.
And the disaster wasn't that long ago, so, it's not that this is completely foreign to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's tough. I on the one hand, I want to explore Kate's coping with things, but this was not the solution for that. This is hey, guess what, Kate? You're gonna live in a state of like perpetual trauma for a while now. So maybe someday you'll find out what happened to Betty, or maybe someday Marty McFly's life won't be ruined. Maybe someday you'll figure out what the fuck was going on with with the fact that there's two of you, and could still be in this timeline two of me for all I know. Because it turns out Doc Brown doesn't know how time travel works.
Well, he knows how time travel works, but he doesn't know about alternate. But again, this
time personage.
This is something that is an ongoing experiment.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that me, Doug, the GM. I mean an ongoing experiment, and even in Doc Brown's sense that
sure.
him traveling to he thought taking you to the future that's it. you know, that's where you belong, and that should be where you go. But it was so radically different. He couldn't foresee the idea that there'd be another you, you know, and even if there was another you, that you wouldn't just vanish, because the fact that you were still talking to him before you went into the future suggests to him that your future was secure, because if you shouldn't exist as a person, you would have vanished.
Right. Yep. I'm a little conundrum. There's a lot of things I want to ask you about this process here, but I feel like we're still too in the middle of it to even begin to broach that safely.
Well, write your questions down and we'll go over it
Okay.
when it's done, I suppose.
I guess this will be a short debriefing in that case, because I'm curious about.
You can ask me and I'll tell you I don't want to go into. I said I won't go into it if that's the case.
I'm
but you can
curious
ask me.
about your level of preparation, because you did this is the most you've ever I feel like this is the most you've opened the sandbox to me directly.
Yes.
And in that way, it seems like you prep for a lot of different variables here.
Sure.
So I am impressed by that, because I felt like I didn't really feel choice paralysis, because I felt like the thing for Kate to do was to slide into Doc Brown's time thing. She does feel pretty fundamentally, based on her own experiences, that Marty's misery at that point in time is clearly, like, in a lot of ways reflective of where she is. Because if that Marty did anything to move through time and solve his family's problems, he'd be where Kate was. And it's much safer and nicer for his world to be transformed around him. But and then you don't have to worry about, like, for Kate, the only casualties that exist in this circumstance is if someone is aware of their timeline shifting around them.
Right.
So, since that's a thing that can happen, that's a concern. I guess I'm curious how far you went in terms of, like, looking at what to me appear to be the clear options of, like, outside the box, just being like, well, what about this random thing that you might not have predicted? But how developed are all the angles, and how disappointed are you when I don't do something that might be interesting? Because I'm like, I want to pursue all these angles, but I know I can't realistically.
I don't get disappointed. I'm usually just I'm never disappointed. I'm surprised.
You are surprised? Because
Yeah.
I'm curious what this experience is like for you, because for me, we spent a whole hour practically, like, shopping in the future, just sort of deciding what shit happens in 2016, and mostly me asking you questions.
Sure.
And I have lost my train of thought. I'm pretty tired at this point.
It's about, like, how much prep work, or like when I plan for something that you end up not following that thread on or something.
Yeah, there's so much there that I'd like to play with.
Well, unlike what I would do for something like Ghostbusters or any other more straightforward storylines, this was a lot of work in a different way. I'm trying to think of a good metaphor for, like. Go ahead.
I was asking about your experience, because
Yeah.
I know for me, I'm discovering so much.
Sure.
But you are, in a lot of ways, maybe I know you're certainly discovering a certain amount of things, but I don't know how much you're just regurgitating research that you've done, or like what's the experience like for you? Is it entertaining? In some ways, I feel like what you're doing is so much in service to me and storytelling to me and the audience, of course, that I wonder how entertaining it is for you, and what exactly, like, what's your experience? What are you getting out of it?
I mean, for me, it's entertaining, but I think it's only entertaining because I'm doing it my way. If someone else tried to do it the way I did, they'd be like, "What the fuck is Doug doing? Like, why would he do it that way? That doesn't sound fun." But or maybe not. But for me, it is fun. It's stressful when I'm not here, and I think, "Oh fuck, now what?" And I have to go home and figure out, like, what are some things that happens next. But I take like a week just to go, "Oh, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this," and then it's always in, like, the 0 hour. It's always like 12 hours before, and it's not like that normal rush of a GM being like, "Well, fuck it, they're doing this now." I don't know. It's very much a thing of, like, wait a minute, I'm trying too hard. I need to let Kate drive the story. That's the whole point of this thing, is for the one character to drive the story. I can't I can't make a world be all things to all people, and I don't have to. This is for one player, for their story. They're deciding where they're going to go. I just have to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was less about choosing where to go and more about providing options and answers. So I was providing options for almost wherever you would want to go, unless out of nowhere you're like, I want to go see dinosaurs. I'm like, well, I didn't prepare for that, but that's not that complicated because it's just dinosaurs, So, but for some of these things, having a research on what happens on the world of Back to the Future at certain points obviously is important. The stuff that's happened in the grand sense so far is canon, to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else, well, that remains to be seen.
Right. Yeah. Boy, I'm certainly looking forward to solving this particular problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely where.
I actually just this doesn't spoil anything, but I'm just now realizing, and maybe stating this question out loud will remind me of what it is later. Maybe once the game is entirely over, I just realized I accidentally fixed a plot hole that always kind of bugged me. Not about our game, but about the movies.
So, but you can't talk about it right now?
I can't talk about it right now.
Interesting.
But no one's gonna care when I finally say it. They're gonna go, "Oh, Doug, I didn't even notice that."
Doug, there's a lot of Back to the Future fans. They will at the very least be interested.
Maybe this is something so minute, and cosmetic that it really doesn't make any difference. But I think I just figured out a small thing that kind of bugged me, a tiny bit, a continuity error. That I'm like, oh wait, no, now it makes sense. If things go as I'm assuming they're gonna go, which is fun. Other than that, yeah. So I basically have, it's like building a Lego set. Here's a Lego set of Hill Valley in 1985. Here's a Lego set of Hill Valley in 2016. Here's a Lego set of Hill Valley in 2015. Here's a Lego set of Hill Valley in case she decides to go to the future. And here's one that in case she decides to go to the, like dinosaur age or whatever. It's like just trying to prepare.
Right.
I have things will happen for the most part wherever you go. There's challenges to overcome, but I can't just lean too far into it until you commit, and then we can grow that garden a bit more so that there's more life into it.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe in this post-apocalyptic scenario, Kate will learn how to I mean, she's fired a death ray before, but get some kind of practical experience so that she's not completely useless in this sort of situation. But we'll see, because things escalated really quickly there.
Yeah. Now's not the time to start learning.
No.
Now's the time for running and hiding, because it was fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, Doug, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'm looking forward to where this goes.